5 reasons why the wealthy like to buy second citizenships or like to buy citizenship in another country. Maybe you've never heard of it, but maybe you have. There's countries, for example, like this one right here that I bought, so I'm a living example of what I talk about. This is St. Kitts and Nevis. You can actually buy this citizenship, technically, it's citizenship by investment. You donate money to a country or you invest in a country, you buy real estate there, you start a business, for example, you buy funds in a fund or stocks or bonds. You make an investment into a country, and in exchange, you get citizenship in a country. Typically, these countries are going to be smaller, so you're not going to see, for example, Canada selling citizenship or Germany setting citizenship, and they're going to do it in a very strategic way. So, for example, Caribbean countries, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Dominica, Antigua, and Grenada, these countries are small islands. They have small economies. They need foreign money to come in and donate and invest into the country, and in exchange, they will give you a citizenship, a passport. This passport typically will have access to pretty much all of the world. You can travel visa-free to a lot of countries, which leads me to the first reason why rich people get these citizenships, particularly people that are looking for better visa-free travel. Let's talk about, for example, a Chinese multimillionaire or Nigerian multimillionaire or Syrian multimillionaire. Whatever nationality that multimillionaire or wealthy person has, maybe it's very restrictive. Yes, they can apply for a visa. They can apply to go to the UK or the Schengen area in Europe or Australia or whatever. They can apply for a visa, but it's very restrictive regardless of how much money they have. So one great way to bypass that is by getting a second passport. For example, they might get St. Kitts and Nevis and then be able to go to Europe visa-free or to the UK visa-free or to go to Latin American countries visa-free. These passports typically will not have access to Canada, the US, Australia, New Zealand, and in some cases to the UK. For example, there are countries that offer citizenship by merit. So you can start a business there, you can make investments, and then you can petition for your citizenship. One of those countries is the Republic of Serbia. I also have this passport, so I'm talking from personal experience. I'm a rich guy who has gone out there and gotten multiple different passports, and I want to help you do it as well. And Serbia, for example, is a great passport to travel between the East and West. So you have great access to the West, to the Schengen area, very easy to get a US visa. And then you have access to the East. So you have access to China, Russia, all the Middle Eastern countries, for example. You have good access to China, to Asia, and access to Latin America as well. So it's a good balanced passport, and that would be the main reason why rich people get these citizenships, is to just have better visa-free travel. The second main reason would be a political and safety hedge for the future, a plan B, an insurance on your life against war, restrictions, banking crisis, financial crisis, real estate crash, more restrictions from the government, whatever political change that happens that starts to restrict your freedom, for example. A lot of EU citizens, they're thinking, look, the EU is getting more and more restrictive over time. What if at some point they don't let me move my money out of the EU? What if they don't let me move myself out of the EU? That's why I'm going to go and get a second passport, like Serbia, for example. Or there's countries like Turkey that offer citizenship in exchange for a $400,000 investment into real estate. Or another country, Vanuatu, which I'm also getting citizenship in this country. I'm actually in the middle of my application right now. For around 130,000 US dollars, you get this citizenship. It's in the Pacific Ocean. It is an island country. And essentially, Vanuatu offers a lot of freedom and a perfect plan B and an insurance for a low price. Like the Caribbean, you need to invest $230,000, $250,000, in some cases $300,000. Here you're only investing $130,000. So the price of a nice car, a BMW or a Mercedes, you're getting citizenship in a country with zero tax, a lot of freedom. They're not trying to restrict you or follow you all over the world. A very neutral country. They're not supporting any wars. Very peaceful, very safe, beautiful. And also, if you want to buy land, you want to build a house in Vanuatu, that's definitely possible. And it opens up the ability for you to have a plan B, the ability for you to have insurance against anything that happens in your Western country or in your country. For example, a lot of Russians are getting second citizenship. Maybe they already have a Schengen visa. They don't need to worry about traveling to Schengen. Maybe they already have a US visa, but they're tied to Russia. They don't trust Russia. They get a second passport to protect themselves as a plan B. The next one is banking access and also investment access. This matters more for US citizens. For example, as a US citizen, I was a US citizen, I renounced my US citizenship. You have a lot of troubles around the world accessing banking, opening businesses abroad, opening financial accounts, getting investment brokers to accept you, because the United States has the most restrictive laws on reporting for their citizens for any financial institution around the world. A bank in Switzerland has to tell the United States government everything about a US citizen opening an account at that bank. So most of the time, they're not even going to bother opening the account in the first place. So a US citizen that is complying with US law, that is paying US taxes, but wants to have a bank account in Switzerland because he has a business in Switzerland, maybe will not be allowed to open up that bank account. Versus a US citizen with a St. Kitts passport, or a Vanuatu passport, or a Turkish passport, or a Portuguese passport, or whatever around the world will get that access. That person is still a US citizen, so they are still subject to US taxes, but they're gonna get that access, that banking access and that investment access. And the same thing is gonna happen for more and more countries. You see, for example, some crypto exchanges banning UK citizens, banning Australian citizens, banning Canadian citizens. That's why when you have a second passport, you can still access all of that, even though you still have the regulations, you still have the taxes if you live in your country of origin, you still have the citizenship of that country, you have the access to those investments, to those banking, to those business opportunities around the world because you have a second passport. Another reason is tax and business flexibility. Now, this can be applied in many different ways. So for example, a Canadian who his ancestors come from Germany, let's say, random example, or an American whose ancestors come from Poland or Greece, for example, they can get citizenship by descent. In this case, they're not buying citizenship, they're getting it through their ancestry. Their grandpa is from Poland, and they can get a Polish passport, and with a Polish passport, they have EU citizenship. They can then move anywhere in the EU. And then they can renounce their US citizenship and give up being a US citizen. So a US citizen who gets a Polish passport, renounces US citizenship, and then moves to Italy and applies for the lump sum taxation program, the flat tax program, currently 300,000 euros per year. It was 200,000, it was 100,000, now it's 300,000. But if you make 30 million per year and you pay Italy 300,000 euros per year, and you renounce your US citizenship, there might be an exit tax, you might be a covered expatriate, very difficult process. Summarized and simplified, you can then pay very little tax in Italy with the flat tax, or in Greece with the flat tax, or in Poland with the flat tax. Or let's say that you are British and you get a second passport like a St. Kitts citizenship or a Vanuatu citizenship or any other citizenship, and then you open a business in Dubai and you move to Dubai, you move to the UAE because you are tax resident in the UAE, now you're paying very little in tax. That's more to do with the residency, not much with the citizenship, but still a lot of Westerners and also Eastern citizens like a Russian who might move to UAE, get a Vanuatu passport, get a Turkish passport, get a Serbian passport, a Chinese who might get a St. Kitts passport, for example. There's many different ways of doing this. You might want to get a Panamanian passport, and then with the Panamanian passport, you can live in Panama as a citizen and then pay very little tax because Panama is a territorial based tax system, meaning that they only care about money generated in Panama. If you generate your money outside, you're not going to pay tax on that money in Panama. So for example, a Canadian who gets Panamanian citizenship through residency and then investment residency and then citizenship can live in Panama as a citizen or as a resident and then pay territorial-based taxes in Panama. So it works many different ways. You get the access, you get the taxes, you get the business flexibility as well. Having citizenship in a country where you're doing business also provides you a lot of benefits, like you're able to buy land in many countries. That's why some people get citizenship in a place like Cambodia. They want to make investments in Cambodia, but they need citizenship in order to buy land. They want to make investments in Mexico. They get citizenship in Mexico in order to make better investments or beachfront investments in Mexico. And the last reason is legacy for kids and grandkids, for the next generation. So for example, a US citizen that doesn't trust the future of the US might want his kids or her kids to move to Europe. A European citizen who is afraid of war might go to Argentina, get his family Argentinian citizenship, and now they have citizenship in a country that is far away from everything, far away from a potential European war. And you give that opportunity to your entire family. These wealthy people, they think in generations. How's the next generation going to benefit from my current decisions? And my current decision is to get a second passport, to get residency, to buy property in another country so that my children and grandchildren can have citizenship in a country and stay protected and have that perfect plan B. If you want to learn more about second citizenship from somebody that has helped over 1,000 people all over the world get a second passport and move abroad, check out this channel right here, my main Wealthy Expat channel. You're gonna learn everything about getting a second passport, second residency, diversifying abroad. Check it out right here.